Can we pray? Okay, let's pray. Father, we thank you for this opportunity that you have given us to gather again over this complex issue of witchcraft in Mbum land.
Your camera on.
Father, we want to thank you for it is by your grace that you have permitted us to be here. Lord Jesus Christ, we rely on you and we belong to you. We want to thank you because we know you are the author and the finisher of our faith. At this point, wherein we want to start our meeting, we pray that may you give us inspiration, may you lead us, may you guide us. May you help us, oh God, that our worries may be addressed, will be addressed, or should be addressed through this program. We rely on you to be able to understand and to curb the phenomenon of witchcraft in our land, which we understand has been an impediment to our development. Father, we pray for the various panelists who have been invited to speak on this subject. We know it is not an easy subject. We pray that may you help them speak not out of their own understanding, but your understanding. We pray may you guide them, may you lead them, may you protect them against all sorts of attacks. May you protect us against all sorts of attacks. Father, that as we delve into this subject, there is no one that is above you. There is no one that is above the network connections. There's no one who is going to perturb this program. We invoke your spirit, we invoke your guiding angels to help us have a successful program. Thank you, our brothers of Wikuda, Canada. We pray, oh God, you continue to inspire them. Thank you for all Mbum people who are interested in the program. We pray you continue to give them the urge to come around this table, to be able to discuss such salient issues. Father, we want to thank you, even those we could not mention. We pray, may you take total control in Jesus' mighty name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Edison. At this time, we say welcome to Town for Me Ike. At this time, we will definitely call upon Edison once again as the moderator to give us a word of where we are. This is the second part of our discourse, and what do you think about that?
Thank you so much for giving me the floor. I want to start by appreciating Wikuda Canada once more for always being there to bring these salient issues on board so that we can reflect around. Last month, we approached this subject on witchcraft around Mbum land, and it would appear the 3 hours that were scheduled for this program were not sufficient enough for the panelists to be able to express themselves, as well as the audience were not able to, the audience was not able to ask all the questions that they had. To that effect, séance tenante, as they will say, in situ, a second program or second session to that program was agreed upon by those who attended the last meeting, and it was deemed necessary that today another program should hold so that we continue to debate, to discuss, to enlighten ourselves about the phenomenon of witchcraft in Mbum land. So far, discussions have been happening At the level of households, discussions have been happening at the level of platforms, social media platforms. And I think today we have an opportunity to meet seasoned panelists who are well versed with issues of witchcraft in Mbum, who have lived situations, who have studied, and who have both traditional, religious, and scientific knowledge as far as the subject matter is concerned. I invite you all to stay tuned and listen to how the issue is being tackled on this platform. Once more, thank you. I want to give the mic back to Dakila from Canada so that he may introduce the speakers, or he continues with the program. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Edison. So definitely the program has started already, and we do have all our three panelists, very inspirational panelists on board already. And this is going to be like a question answer session, and not only question answer session, but anyone who has a contribution, a constructive contribution to make, this is the opportunity. But one of the things that we would like to know, the way forward, how do we handle, issues like this in our land? What is the way forward? So at this time, we will call on, just to introduce the panelists again, we do have Professor Bomba Elias, we do have Tamfomi Ike, and we have Reverend Koyo Fomi Lawrence. These are the panelists again for today. So maybe we'd just like to give each of the panelists a couple of minutes again to, give us one or two other things that they may have they may have wanted to do the last time. And so why not call on Tamfomi Ike, 3 to 4 minutes, just a global idea about what the last session was all about and where are we heading to. As for the questions, I think that once we have questions, just put down your questions on the chat board and we will be able to address the questions. The panelists will be there available to address these questions, or you can just raise your hand and we will be able to attend to you. So once again, you're welcome. And Tamfomi Ike, what's your take from the last session?
Just as it has been noted already, we had a lot to share, but our time got us cut. So today we hope that we will cover enough, but we will never finish this topic, as I tell you. Many people have many questions that we will tackle, and I love to tackle the questions right away, and as much as deep as many as. I really thank Wikuda Canada for this initiative. We have been learning a lot and we will continue to learn. And the moderators, we are going to speak today. Please, when you give me time, know that I will always go above time. Just try to stop me when I finish my time, because I have a lot to say in a very short time. So I think if there are any questions, we will start to answer them. Last time we answered a lot, but we did not answer enough. So I am waiting for questions. Then today, I really have a portion that I want to bring out, which is the practical ways we can live with this concept of witchcraft in Mbum. That is the most important thing. If I do not achieve that today, then maybe I'm going to achieve that one day again. Thank you. So I'm waiting for questions.
Right, so maybe I should start with the questions myself. So what in about 3 to 4 minutes, what are the practical ways that you are talking about we can get rid of this? Or probably not getting rid of it, because I do understand it's a lifestyle. From my very little knowledge about witchcraft in our land, looks as if it's a lifestyle. How do you change? How do you modify? How do you turn this in quotes, negative lifestyle to something constructive. We giving you about 5 minutes for that, done for me, Ike.
Okay, I have about 7, so maybe 1 minute for each, but if you stop me at
That's
5,
fine.
I will continue to come back, okay? Now, witchcraft is not something that we will do away with. Just forget. We have come to live with it. It is like a disease that has come to be with us. We have grown into witchcraft. We were born into witchcraft, and we will live with it. Therefore, we have to now work on how to live healthy lives with it. So we cannot escape. It is part of life. It is our way of life. We perceive it, we understand it, we have gone through it, we are experiencing it. Therefore, we have to adapt living with it healthily and living with it in a community with other people. So it is not only about Mbum people. Okay, so surviving. So the first thing that I want to cover here concerning practical ways of surviving our lives with witchcraft is development. Remember, one is that if this witchcraft is tied up in jealousy, just understand it is tied up in the phenomenon of jealousy. Jealousy comes when you look at somebody and the person is doing better and the other person is not doing so better, and oh, this man's children are going to school, they are doing fine, my own children are staying at home, I am working, my own farm is not working well, and this other person's farm is producing well, and so on and so forth. So jealousy comes in. Now, development. If we are able to develop our place, I am telling you, we will reduce the issue of jealousy and therefore the issue of witchcraft. Now, there is one thing that I will point out as an example. Just I'm talking here like a Mbum person. I'm talking from Mbum perspective. I am a Christian and I'm in North America, in New York area, where I am part of an association of churches where they have put me in a committee to sell some church buildings and then send the money to Africa to do evangelism and missions. Okay, churches have become empty here, so they want to sell buildings and send money. I am in that committee in an association. Guess what I have said? Guess what I've told them? If I am somebody who is very stingy and very selfish, I will only accept to go me back to Ndu with about $1 million US. And I will open a very large church and the church will be full. I will build a building and the church will be full. Guess what I have told them? I have told them that I'm not part of sending people to go and open churches anymore. We have evangelized enough. We have done all this enough. We have to develop our places. If there is any $1 million from this, I have to take it to my people to open an industry.
That for me, Ike. Maybe I want to interject at this point, so
Yes.
so that we stay on the question that was asked. We had various questions that were asked during our last meeting. We want to find out where is the common Mbum man situated with respect to witchcraft. What is their understanding? Does a Mbum man understand witchcraft? We have been made to understand that witchcraft and those people like women who are caught and tortured are being tortured because they are poor. So how is witchcraft perceived by the Mbum man, and how is the response that comes from the traditional authority perceived by the Mbum man and the world at large? I'm happy that you are giving that perspective from the other side of the globe. So what I want maybe, or we want to understand is, how do you perceive the way witchcraft is treated in Mbum land and the measures that have been taken so far, both by the church and the traditional authorities, to be able to find solutions, lasting solutions to this
Okay.
problem.
All right. So while I was answering the first question was practical ways by which we can live with it. Now, with your question coming inside, let me go on with these practical ways and then I will answer the question within. Now, the first practical way is for us to develop our places because it will kill jealousy. That's the first. Second is to revive and perfect our traditional systems. So maybe I'm going to answer that within it. To revive and perfect our traditional systems. Our traditional systems were very good, were very nice, and treating witchcraft in a very just manner. They became imperfect. Today, we have seen people being accused and summarily sent out of the village or maltreated. But our traditional system had been treating this thing in the past, in the ancient past, in a very, very, very careful, very cautious, and very just way. We can go back and revive our traditional systems on how to treat witchcraft, whether from accusation or executing justice. Now,
So
look
if I may ask, sorry for interrupting, if I may ask, are you saying that our traditional systems are not appropriate enough to handle traditional issues because of the advent of modernism?
No, I am not saying. I'm not saying that. I do not want to involve modernism inside. What I'm pushing on it is this: that our traditional systems have somehow been left and not perfected, abandoned, and there is ignorance about the protocols or processes for establishing truth and justice with on the issues of witchcraft. Now, just some few days ago, we had a woman who is, or some episode of a woman who is being pressured to testify. Now, that is not how traditional systems ought to work. We are identifying imperfections, and we can go back and purify and then straighten up traditional ways of establishing justice in terms of witchcraft. And then we can go ahead and then use our traditional system in the right way.
Well, knowing that truth is relative, are you saying that our traditional authorities have not been fit enough to handle traditional issues when it comes to the phenomenon of witchcraft in Mbum land?
Yes, just before time for me comes in.
Where do you think the problem is, and who is to address it, and how do they address it?
Yeah, so time for me. Just before you come in, I would like one of our panelists to jump in and just tell us exactly what's the thing on this question. So call on Professor Bomba. What is your take on this question, Prof?
I'm actually, could we rephrase the question again? Because if we are going to go back to where we ended last time, I think there is still a fundamental problem with the idea that there exists this belief, this philosophy that is manifested by some people who then think they possess certain powers and then they can go about doing evil. And so I still think I don't think we can resolve it, but I think we need to still pause and say the kind of de facto positions that we tend to take about witchcraft leaves a lot to be desired. And I think the idea needs to be problematized a lot more carefully. In other words, I think we still need to inquire about the idea of witchcraft and try to exhaust it a lot more My position as from last time has always been that, yes, these are cultural beliefs, these are religious beliefs, these are magical beliefs. They are found in sacred texts. So it's not only about Mbum people, but even all of those places where those texts document this practice, I think we need to be able to interrogate them more. I think the assumption that it is completely settled, that there is really somebody as a witch, and number two, that in the Mbum community, that witch is always defined, you know, more than 50% of the time by gender, and it is a woman. And then number three, the fact that even if we can establish that, the amount of violence that is meted out is something nobody can do anything about it. I think these are things that really need problematization. And I do not know how we can, you know, ignore actually wrestling with this enough and then propose solutions. But if I were to jump in, and I would agree with what Time For Me is saying, that it seems like a certain amount, whether one defines development, but a broad general perspective, which involves an educated perspective. And when I talk of educated perspective here, I do not necessarily mean going to school and earning a degree, but being schooled in Mbum values, Mbum traditions, and being schooled to know that even if one were to say one can establish these things for sure, they are legitimate processes of rehabilitating someone than what we see. So that's
Prof,
a long way of saying I am still on.
Prof, I don't want to stop you. Maybe I asked this question, or maybe I put it to you, Reverend Dr. Solomon Philemon IV.
Can you put it back?
Yes, Reverend Dr. Philemon IV wrote an article on one of the Mbum platforms that may have been in response to your input during our last program, where he said, if Dr. Professor Fonba researched on this, how could he research on something that does not exist? Maybe I put it to you so that you can answer us.
Sure. How could I research something that doesn't exist? I research on the social perception that there is witchcraft. I research on the belief that there is witchcraft. And number three, I research on the belief that there is witchcraft and something must be done. And that thing that must be done very lately has become violence. So witchcraft as an idea exists, as an idea, but the question is that idea real? Do people really have these powers that they would go out and destroy, especially in the Mbum tradition, their own family members? My point is we need to problematize this more, not to assume the worst of everybody and create a context, particularly where women are victims.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have, thanks very much, Prof. We have a hand up, we have two hands up. We have Uncle Johnson Gala. Maybe you, Uncle Johnson, over to you, please.
Let him put on his mic.
Your mic is not on, you're muted. Please unmute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, you're welcome.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to make sure that I understand what we are doing today following our meeting of last time, because what is going on now is as if we are revisiting the subject all over again, and if we go round and round like that, we'll never get anywhere. What I understood last time was that we came to a consensus that the perception or the concept or the belief of witchcraft, they were two points of view, two opinions. One is that with witchcraft, you have to be very careful. Maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't exist. One was that it exists. But we came to a consensus that, okay, if the belief in witchcraft is real in Mbum land, what do we do to harness it towards development in our area or in Mbum land? And then questions came up, many questions came up, and another consensus was that, okay, we should make a second meeting to discuss the way forward, not to go back to the thing and be saying the same thing that we were saying last week, and then trying to investigate. Okay, but to me personally, I thought that today we were coming to look and it said do some clearing of any questions that were left over last week, and then we move on to what is the way forward. What do we do next with this situation? What are the intervention strategies? Because we cannot dismiss the fact that the belief is fundamental in the Mbum man's mind that there is witchcraft. That is, it might be real, or a reality, or myth, as it was posed. So if we can look at it, okay, for those who say it's real, it's at a personal level, some people have witnessed it, or in some communities they have witnessed it. So what are the intervention strategies in order to deal with those who are accused and have those who are victims? Or how do we have the victims? Because the way they're doing it now is very inhumane and disgraceful to us all as a Mbum man. And if there was a secondary thing that we're going to deal with today, I would like want to discuss a memo that came from Witchcraft National, which I'm not very impressed with. That's why I'm here.
Mr. Moderator, can I respond to what Mr. Ngala is saying? I get his point, but one way of addressing the issue also is always to put the equation on the table that we might be mistaken about these things. So I mean to sound as if somebody is not really interested in addressing the issue, is not correct. I think when you look at a fundamental issue like this, what I am simply saying is that going forward, we should entertain or leave window for the fact that this thing could be an illusion that is carried worldwide. That's all I'm saying. It's part of the solution, because if we are able to convince certain members of the community that there may really be nothing like this, that we are simply pandering on our fears, or even if we go back to what Time for Me is saying, that it is the lack of resources, lack of development, and if we are able to think that this is what causes this, then we can also, as part of the conversation in moving forward, be able to educate people about problematics of just simply assuming that it exists. I think that ought to be on the table. If you ignore that, and yet most of the people who are accused, especially the women, always say, no, I'm not a witch, I'm not a witch, I'm not a witch. We are leaving a good portion of what should be on the discussion as part of the solution. Part of the solution should also include a philosophical, a cultural, a spiritual diagnosis of the idea of witchcraft itself. I'm sorry that I'm taking such a strong opinion about
No, but doctor, part of that is part of the strategy. We have to investigate for those who believe it to prove to us that it exists. That's part of the strategy going forward. Let's question them. Let's investigate those who hold strongly that it exists. Let them show us how it exists. The belief in Mbum is real. The people of Mbum, they believe that witchcraft exists. We cannot dismiss that. So those who believe in it, show us how does it exist. Okay, if it exists, then we investigate. Why does it exist? Then we investigate. Those who perpetrate witchcraft, why did they perpetrate witchcraft? They will tell us why they perpetrate witchcraft, and then we will say what are the advantages and disadvantages. They will show us, and then we'll try to see if we can develop strategies which will give them the same thing without any disadvantages.
I'm not sure I get what you're saying.
Okay, well, okay, let me say it again.
No. Let me tell you why I say I don't get it. Let me explain why I don't get it. Okay, I have simply said, as part of the solution, we ought to always keep on the table an investigation which leaves open the question that there is something as witchcraft.
Yes.
That's all.
Okay, I agree. No problem.
Let's move.
Hey, can I say something? My hand has been up, please.
Yes, go ahead, Doc. Go ahead, please.
Okay, yes, I want to say that in my understanding, our society accepted the fact that witchcraft existed, and they put in place mechanisms to handle people who were accused of witchcraft. They had a system where they went about it, because if you were suspected, they had to verify, and that could mean going to somebody like a soothsayer, somebody like, a witch doctor, to really demonstrate that you are, or you're practicing it. And then there are several steps that were followed. So if they didn't believe in it, they would not put up those steps that people would go through, which might end up in excommunication, which might end up in sending you maybe back to your family or something like that, sending you out of the community. So they believed, to my mind, they believed that witchcraft existed, and they had a way of doing it, which was, to me, humane, which did not abuse the person who was victim, because she had to go through a number of, steps to either say she wasn't guilty, and if she was found guilty, she was taken out of the community, sent to the boundary, and then pushed out of the community to go wherever he was going. So I think, by virtue of the fact that we have that system in place for traditional redress of issues of witchcraft, then our people believe that it existed. Where I see a problem is that maybe when we got into other cultures, they saw our practice negatively. They didn't see our traditional approach to handling issues of witchcraft positively. I want to talk probably about the church. And the church felt that you could come and then they restore you through spiritual or through forgiveness, through all of that. So there were two approaches now that came, and people turned to favor the approach which is being used by the church rather than the approach which is used by our tradition. And there the conflict comes. And then when the government came in with the legal system, it's also having its own approach. So we are having one problem, but several approaches, and people feel free to choose whatever approach they would want to address that same problem. And I think at that level, there should be a conflict, there should be a problem, because we're handling one problem with different solutions. So that is the way I look at it. So I don't know whether saying that we go back to our tradition, so we see how it was handled traditionally, and refine it so that our people can seek through traditional methods or we ask the church to organize its own approach to it, so that people who don't find satisfaction in the tradition can go to church and probably they would find a solution to their problem, or people can seek legal, the law regarding witchcraft. I don't know. These are three different, approaches to solving that one problem, and I think people get confused and people move from one system to the other in search of solution. So that is the way I look at it.
I have to step in. Somebody's hand is up. I identify him as iPhone. Somebody's hand is up. And it has been up for long.
Maybe it was mine and I put it up. I put it out.
Time for me, Ike here.
Okay, time for me, Ike. You're welcome back.
Okay. Now, I don't know. Maybe we should allow Reverend Koyo to say something before I come in.
Reverend Koyo, please, you have the floor.
I greet everybody who is connected to this forum. I have missed out the preceding discussions because I had a kind of blackout with my audio, with the voice. But let me come in this way. In the Mbum land, it is commonly said, if a witch or wizard says you will suffer a burn while eating cool food, so will it be. And if you want to die overnight, just squander pregnant science in the Mbum land. It's the belief system and the reality of the challenges of witchcraft. I am not very sure how I am supposed to come in since I have a suspense in the preceding discussions. But I want to first underscore that the existence of witchcraft is not something to debate about. Even though we cannot prove it, it stands true that there are two spirits at work in the world, the Holy Spirit and the evil spirit. And we are meant to understand that these two spirits are ever working. It is, I think, dangerous to disbelieve the existence of witchcraft, because to me that would mean, because Satan's strategy, witchcraft is part of the ways in which Satan operates in the world. And Satan operates through the rulers, the authorities, the cosmic powers, and the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. It could be on the territory, on the land, it could be in the sea, it could be in the air. And so witchcraft is part of the ways that Satan operates to cause havoc in the world. Within the context of the Mbum land, witchcraft exists, and I strongly believe so. Not just as a belief from space, but as one who happens to be serving and working as a pastor on this land. We are living the effect of it every day, even though we cannot prove it scientifically. We have situations where people are accused of witchcraft.
Reverend Bomba, yes. Maybe I want to step in here to remind us of what we said during the last mission.
This is Reverend Koyo, please. Yeah.
Reverend Koyo, sorry, Reverend Koyo.
Okay.
So thanks for the
yes, this is Reverend Koyo.
There are some panelists who came in and said it has been sociologically established that witchcraft is a social fact. You know, during our last conversation, our last debate on this, and Professor Bomba is taking a scientific approach to the understanding and explanation of the phenomenon of witchcraft. To him, he thinks that since witchcraft has not been scientifically established such that we can have a book a library or a reference.
Yeah, am I
or
expected to talk now?
so that is his approach. And you have the approach of a theologian, a servant of God, and you are telling us how you believe, and you strongly believe that it does exist. So we want to understand what you think is the way forward about what is already existing and the way our people are being treated. I want to
Thank
bring
you
you
very
back
much.
to what one of our Mbum sons, or some of our Mbum sons, proposed, that the church is proposing deliverance as a way forward.
Okay.
Are you in that light, that if we engage on deliverance, we can fight witchcraft in Mbumland?
Yeah, I have a couple of proposals as to the way forward. The first one, by my take, and from my own insight, is that we need to deal with the worldview disorder in regards to the Mbum man and Mbumland. There is a world that perceives the world as a closed system, and that God has created all kinds of spirits available for man just to survive by using the means that are there in order to combat the evil spirits. So I believe the first thing as a way forward is to deal with the worldview problem, the worldview disorder. The second proposal is that there should be a more effective approach in gospel. Am I communicating?
Yes, you
Hello?
are. Absolutely, you are.
Yes, you are. We are
You
getting
are.
you, please.
The second recommendation is that there should be a more effective way of gospel communication that captures and makes use of what I call gospel bridges, so that the common man who is struggling with worldview disorders can be able to understand the gospel concept so clearly, in order that his life standard can be affected. The third recommendation is through education, and this education could be holistic. Because I think that
Reverend Koyo, maybe I want to interject once more and ask Tafomi Ike, who happens to be a clergy, and also he is on the other side of the globe, and he has another experience, and he is on a project which has to do with things that have what we are talking about in concern. He was trying to tell us who he is and what he is doing exactly in North America. And I think Tafomi Ike would want to maybe step in and tell us how he wants to help us understand, considering the fact that he has lived the Mbum culture, he has transcended into other cultures around the world, and he is a man of God because he was trained by the CBDS, that I know. He pastored churches here, and then he is doing God's work in the US, and it almost has a time for me. So please, time for me, what do we want to learn from you?
Yeah, especially the way forward, because everyone on this platform today is looking at the way forward. Any
Amen.
other thing which is not, which is, you know, surrounding will be a distraction. What is the way forward? And just after
Mr. Moderator, let me actually interject here.
Right.
I don't think that this is a fair conversation. Even when I explain my position, you are talking to all. You are talking about all other pastors. What you forget? What you forget is that I also grew up in Mbumland. I can tell you witchcraft stories from my days as pastor at Wanti, in Kumba, and in Yaoundé. I have dealt with witchcraft crisis. I have done funerals where the chief of the village was accused of killing the person who had died.
Mm.
And we did not know what was going to go on. By the time it was done, Chief Justice Endele told me, I don't know what you did to calm this crowd. But I think what is going on here is I sense a resistance. We go back to our culture, our belief. What I am simply saying is, in order to actually address this adequately, we need to problematize that belief and let an open window for people to question if really my grandmother is a witch. It has happened in a village that I am related to. Or to have somebody question, is my brother's wife really a witch? Has my brother's wife killed? It has happened in a Mbum village.
Yeah.
And I eventually talked to that woman.
Okay.
So I don't disagree with development or ideas of education, but what I am saying is, whether it is in the Bible or it is in ancient European mythologies, or even in the land of Israel itself, we need to begin to raise the question: is it true that our relatives are really witches?
Yeah.
Thank
Let me pick up from where Dr. Bomba is leaving. In fact, the more we develop our places, the more the questioning of witchcraft, whether it exists, the more it becomes amplified. I mean that once you develop your place and people develop a life of independence, jealousy walks out of the door gradually, and people tend to be self-sufficient, and so they do not feed on jealousy in order to exercise that spiritual side of them. This is what is going on in North America. This is what is going on in places that are developed. Witchcraft exists everywhere, but jealousy that activates witchcraft is caused because people are inadequate, people are people depend, and people are unable to take care of themselves the way they should.
Mm-hmm.
And so they turn to jealousy. Development is very important in bringing down witchcraft. Now, just one scenario. A mother is brought to me by the fount of a village and his tanto and shares, because that mother is a witch. And the mother is a witch killing the son. And so the mother is brought to me, and I say, okay, Tata Duni, Tanto Duni, we have on my way. But I'm a pastor, so I had to talk. The mother consented. And when she did consent, she told me her son has abandoned her. Her son is not, see the house she's living in. The son has abandoned her. The next thing I do is I tell the chief, just be there, give me 3 months, I will solve this problem. I get the son's number, and I call the son, and I ask the son to send me money to take care of the mother. In about a month's time, the mother's house, the bed, everything is well fixed. The next thing you know is that the son is now ready to come to the village just because the mother has opened the door to talk to him, because, you know, something has happened. Now, where is the witchcraft? So there's a question mark whether it exists or whether these people really saw it or whether they didn't see it. There is something in it that this mother was thinking in her. But she consented before acting like this, before I went in to do the solution. In 3 months, the son already came to the village and everything was fine. In fact, this is an example of the fact that if we are able to do certain things within our village, within our villages and our families, things will be better on this witchcraft. I said the second one is to revive and perfect our traditional systems. Now, look at it this way. The civil court, just see the mother who was ill-treated. Online, we saw it. Now, the civil court has a way of settling witchcraft. They have it in the penal code. Now, can the village people, can the village system, can the traditional system develop a way of collecting good evidence to supply to the court? Yes. Can we teach them how to collect evidence enough? That evidence that could be accepted in the civil court? Yes. They are ignorant right now. Because when they go to punish somebody, about it, they do not even know how it existed, how they used to punish people in all humane ways. So if we revive the traditional ways, we could be able to handle these issues the way they were being handled with no problem. And even we can complement the civil way of handling it by collecting evidence. So it's practical. Number 3 is that we should encourage public confessions. Public confession means we should be able for people to come out and really say, I am a witch. We should encourage them. We should be able to encourage discussion about it so that it's open, like somebody could talk about it. And if they talk about it, let me tell you the power of confession. Power of confession. I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about telling it. Healing in way of telling it is very important. If somebody comes out and talks about it, we are able to help them. In a communal lifestyle, we're able to connect and help them. And so it is very important when you speak, the power of confession, the power of telling it, the power of telling the story is very, very important. When we go to, I work in the psychiatric system, and somebody starts seeing images. Somebody starts seeing things that normal people are not seeing. Okay, the psychologist, the psychiatrist is there to interpret it, to assess it as schizophrenia, hallucinations, or this and that. Me, I am there as the chaplain to interpret it from a spiritual point. Okay, and we work in a team together to solve his problem. The first thing that all the discipline in that team do not want to do, and it is not right to do, is to dismiss what the person is experiencing. We always affirm that what you are experiencing is what you are experiencing. We are going in now to help you. And sometimes we throw back the question to the patient and say, what works for you? What is it that helps you? What can help you in this situation?
Time for me, Susie Key's hand is up. May we listen to her question and maybe it will fall in line with what you're saying?
Yes.
Susie, your hand is up.
Okay, thank you so much, Mechani Mbum. This is very interesting to me. So what I wanted to say is in line with what most people have said. We have established or not that witchcraft exists. In my family, we have experienced some very sad and unfortunate situations. One of those have been where my brother-in-law went with his friends. They went out to drink, and on coming back, he was very close to the house, but we waited till midnight. We didn't see him in the house. But the following day, we heard that he was seen on a rooftop for those who know Douala, we live in Daido, but he was seen in Bonamusadi. He did not climb on a bike. He did not, the friend with whom he left, the last friend he was with, left him very close to his gate. We saw him on the rooftop. Whatever happened. So those are things to me that, and other things that I may not be able to say, I would clearly say some things happen that are mystical, which will fall under witchcraft. Now, talking about finding a solution, that for me is clearly pointing us in a direction which I like. I agree with all the ideas on how to go. If my mom, for example, or my father were accused of witchcraft, I definitely want to know. I would not want anybody to maltreat them or beat them, because witchcraft is spiritual. It's not something they do, like the old man who was asked to creep and climb the hill when his knees were hurting. In the night, he is somebody else, whatever happens in that world. So I feel that if we can go back to our chiefs, if we have chiefs in the villages, most of those things that are happening happen in front of a tawi fowl. Somebody is sitting there and they are beating the old woman. So my question is, are we able to provide a safe haven for these people? First of all, if we do acknowledge that it's a spiritual problem, I personally believe it is. And I think that the only way to contrast a spiritual problem is to also use a spiritual power. So to me, I would say, how about we go back to the chiefs and say, how do we empower our churches to start helping us with this? Because from what Dr. Mbumba said, his experience in Kumba, I've been in Kumba, I've seen a lot, we've prayed for people. So I believe that we all know that there is something that could happen in the spiritual realm to contrast this.
Thank you, our sister. Thank you so very much.
Okay.
Let me answer the question. Let me answer the question.
There is somebody's hand which is up. And okay.
It's my hand.
Yeah, there was, I think,
It's my hand.
Let me answer the question.
Yeah, just before Time for Me answers, I saw a hand up long ago. Unfortunately, I don't know the name, but I see Galaxy A11, and Galaxy A11 had the hand up long ago and sent down the hand. So please, can we have you on board, please, before Time for Me intervenes? Galaxy A11, I am not sure who is. Just introduce yourself and let us know what your opinion is. Thank you.
I don't know whether I'm the one, but my hand is up.
I see Galaxy A11.
Doctor, you have spoken, but I think it's the hand of Gala Johnson who is up. Gala Johnson, please, you have the floor.
Okay, wonderful.
He has already spoken.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, 5 on 5.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Barry. You see, I have just noted 5 strategies going forward from all the discussions that we had. I just want to share them with you. Number 1, more scientific research or more scientific or empirical research into the issue. We have religious and spiritual interventions. We have also development is an aspect that can be used to deal with the issue. And then we also have the idea that we should improve on our cultural and traditional interventions, and then the legal intervention. That's what I just wanted to share with you.
Okay. So now let me answer the question behind it. Okay.
Before you do that, that's very good. That's a very good summary. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, we are working, Doc.
Okay, so now let me answer the question. The question was whether we can engage our traditional chiefs or the traditional system to offer spiritual interventions that are worth, or that can be effective in dealing with the issue of witchcraft. Now look, if you go back to our traditional system, the first time they were actually killing the witches and the wizards.
Oh God.
Are you getting me?
Yeah, 5 on 5.
Yes, they were actually killing them, hanging them, killing them. Now, in those days, to accuse somebody was very serious, and to accuse somebody falsely, you were going to be treated the same way if it came at false. Now, in those days, your Nduruma was your defendant, was the person who defended you at every turn, and to reach to a point where they will lynch you, where they will have to hang you, your Ndunma must have actually seen about 3 times that you are actually guilty. If we go back to really making sure that our traditional systems determine guilt in such a slow, steady, and accurate manner, we will be able to treat the issue of witchcraft in a very humane way. Before you see somebody being sent out of the village, serious findings and serious evidence must have been developed. And if we actually teach our people how to collect evidence that could really count in the court of law, we will be in a good standing. So we can go back. We have now established the WIFO, which is the Funds Union. We now have the Funds Union, and we also have the other institutions associated that we can walk through, even to do seminars, to teach our Marong people, to teach our people how to conduct this thing in the right way. I'm telling you, we will do a better job. Now,
That for me, Ike, you are in the US, and the US has laws that forbid parents even punishing children. Are you telling us now that we can modernize our Ngwarong and the beatings in our Ngwarong?
No. If we go back to our traditional societies, right, and teach them, we will teach them to harmonize tradition with real world situations right now. Because we cannot beat someone like this mother that was ill-treated. Yes, she would have still been treated in the right way, but would have still been found guilty by the traditional institution and treated as a witch, of course, but not in an inhumane way.
What do you mean by the right way? Does it mean that if she was tortured in secret, like we say, the secret society, because traditionally, as you rightly put, they used to hang people in the Ngwarong, and it was not public. We are living an era where the social media is all over, and somebody stands there and is taking it with his phone, and before they realize, even those perpetrating it do not know the influence of social media. Are you saying that these things are good if they are not put on social media? Or
no,
they
I am saying
in
that
some other form without going to social media?
Okay, good. I am saying that in the past, look, they did not used to treat people inhumanely like this. Even if you were going to kill, like an authorized institution to kill, okay? An authorized institution to kill. If you were going to kill, you were going to kill in a humane way, okay? But right now, if we want to harmonize our traditional system so that it works together with the civil systems that we have now, we will be able to have that discourse where we will be able to say, okay, we can treat this person right now in this way so that it will not put us into trouble or into conflict with this civil system. It's not necessarily beating somebody. There is not only one way of punishing somebody. We can derive a way of punishing somebody by not only beating. We can derive a way of handing the person to the civil authorities by establishing good evidence, because it can be used in court. That will be fine.
So
We can enter into discussion on this.
The lady who spoke from Douala just said that the brother was caught on the roof naked, and she is using the brother's case to establish the fact that I believe that witchcraft does exist. And we are trying to see how our parents, our traditional authorities handled witchcraft in the years. Today, are we saying that there is a humane way of handling witchcraft which can go to the extent of killing, as far as you know, we can modernize it and maybe put it right in the face of the legislation? I don't understand you. Or maybe
No.
some other person
No.
may want you to shed more light on
yeah,
it.
Let me say this. Let me
Moderator,
come in.
can we
I want
come in?
to say
yes,
just one thing.
okay,
One
so
thing.
yeah,
One word.
well, I mean,
I'm
okay,
saying that.
yeah,
Yes,
Dr.
I'm just trying to,
just go ahead, please.
yes, I'm saying that if we look at our traditional mechanisms for addressing issues of witchcraft, they are really very clean. You start from establishing that this is a witch.
Yes.
If the person refuses, you move to the next step. And finally, the person is sent back to, with you don't kill, you send the person out of your community so that the person
right.
goes maybe to meet her people, maybe the people, I mean, what happens next is the concern of that community. You don't really have to kill, but our tradition, at least what I know, is that there is a process which eventually leads to somebody being excommunicated.
Yes.
And
Right, so-
there is no violence along the way. And the excommunication is done by the Ngwarong. The Ngwarong, we call it Tosi. Tosi will take you to the boundary and then you are excommunicated and you go. That issue of violence is kind of tarnishing our tradition. The institutions were built in such a way that they were humane and they were not meant to humiliate anybody.
People, yeah.
So
Now,
that
so
is
Dr.
our traditional part of it. Now my contribution, because it's something that Tam for me said and did not develop. One thing which is the cause of witchcraft and which we could do to reduce witchcraft is greed. Greed. You grew up in a village. You are everybody's child. Then you come out of the village and then you begin, since you want to be greedy, you want to use your resources on yourself. You forget about the village. Then they will say, Mbo, Irowe. Because you need to connect with your community. That's the community where you grew up. Then you completely cut from relating with it. And then people begin to question. People begin to see, they say, Mbo, because we're not coming. You need to commune with that community. And by communing, when you go in, if you are rich, why not share your riches with them? And when you share your riches with them, nobody would have you in bad books. And we know that is coming from what somebody sang. Nobody would have an attitude or would have a negative attitude towards you if you are friendly to the person. That's the simple truth. So why do we grow out of a community and then we want to stay and then say, okay, we use our resources for ourselves. We don't want to help anybody. We don't want to associate with the village and so on. Those are the things that breed witchcraft at home. And if we become if we relate more with our communities, we relate more with our families, we relate more, all of those things will help to reduce the hatred that people would have maybe against us for not coming to the village or for not sharing our riches with them, for not sharing what we have with them. And it would consequently reduce the prevalence of witchcraft in our communities. That's something which I think is very important.
Right. Thank you so much, Tutondi. So definitely we are getting somewhere. One of the things I am worried about is that this discussion we're having here, how does it have an impact back home?
Yes.
Are they like,
That's the point.
are they
That's
like
the point.
the chiefs? Are they present here? They are the ones who can impact.
They are not.
So if they are not here, how do we carry this message back home? Because I am sure that the next instance we see a case similar to that of the woman or the mama who was ill-treated, dragged on the ground because it is alleged. Again, at the point we're talking about alleged she's a witch, it's a very scandalous incident, both to our people and even Cameroonians as a whole. Because when it goes onto social media, it is Cameroon, it is Mbum. So how do we change that mentality after this talk? What can we do for the Mbum people to know that? Like some people sat, discussed, and thought that this practice is unacceptable and should change. Yeah. Some hand up. It's Uncle Johnson's hand up.
I can see Mr. Moderator.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I have an answer to your question, and I want to promise everybody that this is my last intervention. Okay, I think I'm consuming too much of the space, and I
This is
don't.
for the audience as well, so don't bother.
I have in my intervention, I'm going to answer your question, and I'm intervening from the point of view of problem solving. There's a problem solving formula called the 5W. The what, the where, the how, the why, and then the when, and so all that falls into all what we are saying here. So me, I made a summary of 5 points which were accepted. If I believe that you trust Dr. Bomba, I think they were accepted. Now, the next thing that I wanted to present is how do we go about more scientific research or more scientific empirical research? How do we go about that? That is the number one question to be answered. Religious and spiritual intervention. How do we go about that? Development. How do we use development as a tool and then improve? Okay, Dr. D just talked about our tradition that we have. Apparently, they are not adequate. So how do we go about improving these things that were being used that are not adequate today? And then we also talked about the legal intervention. How do we go about that? The how is very important because now we know the problem and we know the issue. We have a consensus on the perception. Maybe it's not true or it's true, but how do we go about it? This is my suggestion about how we go about it. We who have accepted to take this on ourselves. After this, we do something that we write like a memo and send to all the chiefs and to disseminate in all the urban villages, because these things are happening mostly in most of the boondocks and so on. But we have to send this to all the chiefs because they happen from the palace with the water and all that, and religious and all kinds of we and other associations like churches and so on, so that they know how we can go ahead. They can try to go ahead and use some of these strategies that we have developed to deal with the perception of witchcraft. I'm not saying the existence, I'm saying the perception. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I also see a series of questions from Ganji Edwin. Yeah, if you're on board, Edwin, can you tell us what your questions and worries are about, please?
Please, Mr. Moderator, after the questions, would you give me an opportunity to
Absolutely.
chip in some contribution?
Absolutely, Reverend.
Yeah, I think, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. I think today, for me, it looks like we are in the right direction. One thing that has been established is the fact that, yes, we recognize that be the idea or the practice exists. And secondly, too, that on the table, yes, we give room for, doubts that certain accused persons may be wrongfully accused. That is recognized as well. But right now, I think we want to access the powers that be. And I think the suggestion to write a memo is a very, very good one, because I cannot imagine that for how many years that our land has been what it is. Pictures that come today, you see them, they've never changed. And development, as suggested, is a very critical
So you have
one,
a problem with your mic, Edwin?
You cannot hear me?
Hear you. We hear you.
So I'm not sure where the issue is, but I see Edwin has a problem.
Yeah, I just muted the person. Thank you.
All right.
It's breaking, but we hear you.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So like I was just recapping what I hear, right? And I think that the suggestion to write a memo is a critical one. And those who have access to this union of funds, or maybe other powers that be, those who make the decisions in the land, should be actually, put in copy with our observations and our suggestions as well, because it is going to be development and a good number of other suggested
Not
things
sure
that
that
can
there's
bring
some
the change.
network
Thank you.
issue at.
Yeah, maybe you are not hearing me, but
Okay.
that's fine. I can still type that later on. Thanks.
Okay.
Excuse me, Mr. Ahmad. Can I come
Yes,
in?
go ahead, please. You have the mic, please.
Thank
Okay,
you.
So Reverend Koyo has the mic, I think. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to add to my previous recommendations, which others have mentioned. Some of them others have mentioned. I did recommend that we need to deal with the worldview disorder of the Mbum, and that can take place through education. We need to revisit and make gospel proclamation more effective. And then to also encourage to also develop their own approach in handling the witchcraft problem. We also need to follow the approach of education. For example, educate the funds, because the funds themselves, some of them need help. Oh, yeah. Some of them are scared by this issue of witchcraft as well. And then education may be to the Nwaro and all of those groups. There is also the element of unemployment, which accounts for this issue of witchcraft and poverty. So if there is effort in development that leads to job creation, it can reduce the menace of witchcraft. Socioeconomic development. We also need to revisit our traditional and cultural roots and their approach to the issue of witchcraft. For me, Ike mentioned that previously there were serious findings, traditional findings before anything would be done. And most often, serious traditional findings were through sorcery. So I think that the sorcerers themselves need help. And this help can take the approach of teaching as well. Okay. We can use various media. It could be radio, television, religious groups, seminars, community outreach seminars, and things like that. I have made efforts to this regard. I have made with several funds in the Mbum land, and I have offered them teachings on cultural transformation. Some of these issues have been addressed in my little booklet titled Drinking the Gospel in African Cups. And I tell you, it is bringing a lot of positive effects. Because for the most part, people just need to be enlightened. They need to be helped through some of their assumptions that they have lived with. It's not to say witchcraft doesn't exist. For the most part, people need to be enlightened. We need also to some who are actually need counseling and deliverance. And those services can be offered by religious bodies. In this, our context here, we don't have counseling clinics that is obtained in some developed countries. So I think that these, among others, like making use of human rights and the law and the police and welfare services, will be some of the issues that can help address this problem of witchcraft in the Mbum. I think this is where I pause at this moment in disclosing.
Reverend.
Okay, moderator, can I make a comment?
Yeah, you go ahead. You can make a comment.
I would have to check out because I have other commitments.
That's fine, no problems. Yeah, go ahead.
A lot of things have been put on the table. Let me actually just, for the sake of argument, state that if you look at everything we are proposing, it would indicate that we need to actually think very, very, because except somebody wants to convince me that we are saying that witchcraft exists. If we develop, if we do this, or it is dormant, it is all of these things that bring it to life. then I think if we look at it very, very carefully, then we'll see that we always need to put that proposition in mind, that we may be wrong about this, Europe may be wrong about this, the United States, you know, the early Salem witch hunts, every society that has talked about this, that there may be something fundamentally wrong about this, because all of these solutions we are proposing hinges on the fact that we think it actually exists. But while we do not state so, it is these things then that provoke that. I think in terms of logic, there is something that needs to be worked out there. Let me, I think before a pastor finished, he made a statement which I was going to call attention. It's normal to hear members of the clergy always approach something from the perspective of the gospel. But we tend to also forget that there are Muslims on the call, there are traditionalists on the call.
That's why I talk about religious bodies.
Yes, and so it would always be good to be a lot more inclusive in the way about this. And for instance, try as much as possible to always refrain from a very transcendental point of view when we deal with sacred texts. Sacred texts come out of a history. Sacred texts come out of a world where people were wrestling with those issues themselves. And sacred texts probably sometimes don't tell us nothing more than just the experience of the people and the communities out of which those texts come out. Then it becomes, if we are going to address these things, religious leaders and faith leaders probably need a little more humility when we talk about the power of sacred texts. Because those communities and those adjudications that took place, especially in the Hebrew Bible, when witches were banished and all kinds of things, do actually leave something to be desired, which in the context of today, a world where after 1945, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and all of the other rights that have come, we have come to appreciate. Sometimes sacred texts do not always help us address those things. Finally, I think the elephant in the room here still remains that in Mbum land, we still have a huge gender problem. I think all of us are provoked by this because we have seen the way women have been treated.
Can I address that?
Just before you address.
Yeah, just before let him land, please. Yeah.
Yes. So the fact that we have come to this because we have seen the way women have been treated. And I have essays and studies on Mbum witchcraft that go back 20 years ago, focusing specifically on specific women who were brutalized. One even in my own village. I think it leaves a lot to be desired. That even us, as we discuss this, we don't seem to take the gender dimensions of this very, very seriously. Thank you.
Yes, just before you come in, please, I have one quick question for Dr. Bomba. Yeah, let's say hypothetically, witchcraft exists. I mean, hypothetically, we're not getting into any academic implications of the subject. How would you, as a person, how would you, Prof, as a person, propose a way forward? Would you have about 3 elements as solution, not solutions, but like proposals to enhance this situation in our land? I mean, if hypothetically we accept that witchcraft exists, because belief is it's something in the mind of each and every one. If we do believe, how would you propose a way forward? Maybe 2 or 3 elements that can make us move forward in a more constructive manner. And thereafter, we would like probably Tamfomi Dimanjon, who has been waiting for quite a while to speak. Yeah.
Mr. Moderator,
for me,
I could make a statement in regards to something he said in relation to my contribution.
Okay.
And before I will talk about the gender issue.
Yeah. So Professor Bomba was still on probably answering the question I posed before he exits. Yes, Prof.
Sure. Very, very simple, but very difficult. I think a lot of things have been put on the table, like economic development, education, transformation of ideas, revitalization of Mbum culture. I think all of these things will go a long way in opening a robust conversation on the subject. Many, many years ago, when I wrote my doctoral dissertation and eventually published a book, I came out with a complex term which is often called intersubjective ethics. Ultimately, even if it exists or it doesn't exist, I think we need to begin to cultivate. I mean, it's a modern post-World War II ethic, a kind of ethic which prioritizes the other. That I am not prior to the other person. The other takes priority. If the other takes priority, then I cannot totalize that person either politically, like what happens in political systems in Africa, where there is extensive totality and brutalization of people, or spiritually, even if I had those powers, I cannot totalize somebody, because as an individual, each person stands on his or her own right. I think it's an ethical approach which makes sense, because then therefore, regardless of how much power I have, how much money I have, how knowledgeable I am, I cannot totalize the other person. The other person has priority. And then you may ask the question, but what of me? Because I am also an other to the other person, and the other person will also be prioritizing me. That's the way I look at it. It's a substantial ethical problem, whether somebody believes that it actually exists or questions like I do. I still think with those beliefs, there's an ethical project here, and that ethical project should prioritize the other person who needs to be respected, treated as a human being, treated with dignity, and not treated as an object of some illusion that somebody thinks she is practicing witchcraft.
Thank you so much, Professor Bomba. Especially, you've been very instrumental in this discourse. I think that we've learned a lot as well from your different interventions. And of course, we do appreciate the fact that you've been with us and educated us on another aspect of how people, they call it Weltanschauung for those who are in Germany. So we absolutely do appreciate your contributions and this presentation and all the questions and answers you've answered so far. And we thank you once more for being part of us, and we will get back to you anytime we have other questions. Don't even worry.
Thank you.
So we will call on just before Time For Me comes in. This is a forum where...
Can you call on Time For Me? I want to hear what Time For Me has to say.
Just before he comes in, I would like to call on Time For Me.
He has a lot to say about this.
Time For Me, Dimanjon. Can you just say, can you just come in while Time For Me, EK is ready to answer the question from Professor Bomba? Time For Me, Dimanjon, over to you, please.
Thank
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm terribly late because I had some other commitment. I think what I just have to throw in is that we are dealing with a complex issue.
Before time for me speaks, please.
Do I have the floor?
Yeah, you do, please. Thanks.
Okay.
Mr. Moderator, I said I wanted to make a compliment.
Yeah, can we just give time for Mindy Manjong a couple of minutes, then your compliments will be heard, please.
Yeah, what I'm trying to kind of like state or interject is that we're dealing with a complex issue, which is as complex as our existence as the Mbum people, because it's been with us almost like forever. Regardless of which way we go, maybe 1 hour of our own discussion here, 2 hours of our own discussion here, even 1 week of our own discussion here, will not really do it real justice as to what exactly this phenomenon is that haunts us, whether deservingly or imaginarily or whichever way. In a sense, let's assume that it is just a psychological phenomenon. If it is, then it needs to be dealt with. If it has a hold on our people, even if it's just psychological. And if it has had a hold on our people, we cannot kind of like treat it light to say, oh, let's just say it doesn't exist. Well, how exactly are we going to say it doesn't exist for it to really do us justice in terms of the hold it has had on us for the history of our existence? Remember, we have to grow out of it. And we have to grow out of it. We cannot grow out of it with a kind of superficial one or wish that it doesn't exist. Yeah, it wouldn't exist for those of us here. But what of those that are in the village that it has a hold on them, who are in the majority? We'll still have to provide for them to be able to deal with it. And I think, I don't know what the suggestions were before I got here, but I'm just saying that if you look at what is prevalent, what shows up here much more is the thing that in journalism will say, you know, if a man bites a dog, it makes for a story. Yeah, but if a dog bites a man, maybe it's not really a great story as such. So the brutal cases probably are the ones that show up here. And then incidentally, again, maybe those brutal cases are cases that have to do with women. But there are a lot of witchcraft stories out there that are handled differently. And maybe some of them are handled the way they were supposed to be handled. So in as much as we're not visiting how they used to be handled, then we are in a way just throwing out a whole history of our own existence dealing with this problem. Because one way that it used to be handled, maybe humanely, was that yes, people are bound to accuse others of this mystic that has to do with witchcraft. But once you are accused, then there was a way of you trying to exonerate yourself. And then that procedural way was for that individual to go maybe to his mother's people or her mother's people to kind of tell them that, hey, these people are accusing me of this. And I don't know what it is that they're accusing me. But that's not the same like you are being beaten to go to your mother's people. You are being told that the findings are that you are this. And then you go to your mother's people and get them to validate what the other people have said you are, or refute what the other people say you are. And then in between your mother's people and your father's people, well, or your mother's people and your marital people, then there's bound to be some kind of understanding as to whether you really are or you really are not. And then when it comes down to you really are, then there are going to be some humane remedies that were supposed to be provided. Yeah, it's different between the Ngwarong giving you an exile stick and then the Ngwarong beating you to death or beating you out of the village. So if they give you an exile stick and then you take that exile stick to go back to where you came from, either from your father's people, if you are a woman married elsewhere, or from your compound, you are going to your mother's people as your last refuge. If your father's people reject you because you are this, and then all of that was humane in itself. So it is our examination of the brutal part that is the cause of concern, and then nobody is taking note of the practice in which things were done more humanely. So whatever recommendations we are making, are we making the recommendations that while we ease ourselves out of it, is there some way we could go to treating it, approaching it the humane way it ordinarily used to be approached?
Right. So before you go, please, just one more minute before you go, what kind of recommendation will you give at this time on very personal basis? What do you think can be the way forward?
Yeah, well, I will hesitate not to immediately tell people that let's go and tell the phones to say that witchcraft doesn't exist, because that's kind of a quick fix. And just by the phone making an order or telling the whole village, beginning today, going forward, nothing exists like witchcraft, it's not a resolution of the problem, because what we are saying is, supposing it's just psychological. Yeah, you don't solve a psychological problem simply by just saying that it doesn't exist. People who are victims of that problem need to go through some kind of counseling, serious counseling or serious whatever, to be able to pull themselves out of the psychological problem. So the quick fix of saying that it doesn't exist, or let's all just believe that it doesn't exist, how are you going to get everybody to believe that it doesn't exist? Because believing in something, I mean, to believe in Christ is something that it takes time for people to really get into that, from doctrine to becoming a Christian to becoming what that's all believing in Christ.
Yeah, so yeah, what we're saying is, if we take the part that it exists, what is what would you prescribe? What will you propose as a solution going forward?
I just said that if we accept that it exists, then we should go back to the humane way of handling it. Make the accuser and give the accused the opportunity to refute the accusation. And the way, like I said, used to happen is that you accuse, say, the Ngwagu of whatever, then Ngwagu goes back to their family to say, I have been accused of this. Okay. And then, yeah, it is for that family now to go and find out whether really their own daughter is guilty of that. And then they find that they are not guilty, then they come back to that family to say, yeah, we need to talk about it. This is our own finding. It's not really that it is her. Some other person is using her for whatever, and then because they see her, they think it's her, but she's an innocent one. And then they'll walk through all of that. And then if it comes to saying that the other people are adamant that she is and they don't want her anymore, then of course she's given the opportunity to go back to her people, and that will just be by the simple process of exile. And in that process of exile, unless she's resisting the exile, nobody should be beating her to go into exile. They just give her the exile stick, and then at the end of the at the boundary of the village, she gives back the.
Okay, that for me,
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That for me, Dimajong.
Yeah.
Thank you. If I understood the Akila from Canada so well, we are looking at the way forward
Yep.
And the way forward will be like, we have issues related to human rights, gender questions, and the way witchcraft is being handled in our contemporary times.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to allow witchcraft to be handled by evangelists through crusades? Do we want witchcraft to be handled through court, as others have proposed? Or do we still think that our traditional authorities should handle issues of witchcraft, but without maltreating the people who most often are women, from poor backgrounds, or widows, or women who do not have children who are well-to-do?
Right. So time for me, Ike. I think you were also ready to come in with some contributions and explanation on 1 or 2 points going ahead.
Also, was I done, or that was to me?
Let's allow Reverend Koyo. Reverend Koyo was
That's
there
right.
to talk then before I come. But Dr. Ndimanjong still has something to say concerning what Edison.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr.
Moderator.
So should I finish?
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
Yeah, so we can look at it this way. We still have land issues, or farm issues, where people maybe are wrestling over maybe a farm boundary or that. Well, the alternative is for you to go to the court, right? To say this is my boundary. And the alternative is for you to go to the traditional council. Yeah, so some people go to the traditional council, and then that is resolved there. And then some people ignore the traditional council and they go to the court, whatever. Yeah, but we are saying that when it comes to this, those alternatives should still be available to people. Either you are doing it the old traditional way, or you want to do it through the courts. Yeah, because it's in the penal code, right? Witchcraft and whatever. It's in the penal code. So if you choose to do it through the court, I don't know if our present magistrates are trained to handle that. If they are, then that's fine. But if they are not, I don't know what proper remedy you will get when going to the court. And then if it comes to where we are pursuing the traditional way, I am saying that traditional way actually is not what we have been seeing. What we have been seeing is the same thing that we see with what people have been doing with the Mwerong recently, inventing their own stuff, getting them caught to want to embrace the bishop. Also, those are people's invention, present day invention. It has nothing to do with how it always used to be done. So we need to go back to how it always used to be done. Accuse the individual, give him the opportunity to refute or accept the accusation, and then whatever the final outcome, treat it humanly. If they don't want, they're not supposed to remain. If they are the son of the compound and the compound doesn't want them anymore because they have been found guilty of this, then they are allowed the opportunity to go back to their mother's people. And then usually when you go back to your mother's people, probably that ability to practice that in your mother's people's family may not be there. So you live there and never come back, but not with the brutalization. And if you are in Gwagu elsewhere, then they give you the opportunity to come back to your people. And then the Mwerong does that kind of humanely by just giving you the exile stick, which you hand back to the Mwerong at the boundary of the village, and then you continue to your other people, and then you tell them, oh, you have been exiled because they say you're guilty of this. And then, of course, they have no option but to accept you there. And if the family from which you went into marriage still thinks that you are a threat, then like the Mbum people have, your mother's refuge, your mother's family is your last refuge. Is your last refuge. So if the daughter comes back and the family still has problem with her, then she needs to go to her mother's people, and then that is her last refuge. And I'm saying that that needs to be the understandable way of handling this thing before, without the brutalization that we now are realizing.
Yeah, thanks so much, Tamfomi Ndimanjong. I think we still apologize that Dr. Mbumba is still waiting for Tamfomi Ike to make a statement before he exits, before he leaves. Please, Tamfomi Ike, over to you. We do appreciate your patience, Prof.
Okay. No problem. Yes, to address the gender issue, particularly the gender issue, because Professor Bomba has raised this several times. Reverend Koyo, you're going to talk after me, please. Let's address this before Professor Bomba actually steps out. Now, we have seen that a woman's own way of doing things in Mbum land, in our culture, a woman's way of doing things is different from a man's way of doing things. The idea that is putting us with this thing of gender out there is because of what is now known as equity or equality. In terms of human rights, we are all equal, we are fine, we are the same. But we already know that a woman's way of doing things is different from a man's way of doing things. And we have grown. It's not about sacred texts, because sacred texts are not in vacuum. Sacred texts are from experience. Okay, sacred texts come from experience. It's just that they have been written. My father did not write his own sacred text. My grandfather did not write his own sacred text. It doesn't mean that he did not have an experiential sacred text. So now we have grown up being people. We have grown up in a patriarchal system where a man is the leader. Before the Bible came, it's not about the Bible. It's not about the Bible saying that men will be leaders. A woman is not a leader in our society. Okay, a man is the leader. It doesn't mean that a woman cannot be the leader. A woman leads from behind. But what, according to the nature of women and how they do their things within our culture, is that women are even less involved in witchcraft than men, but men use them to do things. I want you to get this very clear. Men put women ahead to do things. And then when they come to find out, they are seeing the women. It doesn't mean that the women are the ones actually acting. You have heard about the witchcraft at Malele Indu. It was all male. You have heard about Tinwa Indu. It was all male. You have heard about many places that I can count. It was all male. The thing is that women are a kind of, within our culture, women are emotional. They are the weaker sex. They are used as a tool. Just understand that it's our culture. When they go to kill somebody, they give the woman the book because the woman doesn't have sorry heart. The woman will kill. And the men cannot kill because they have a second thought. A woman thinks only once. A man thinks twice to take an action. So when you go to talk about gender in terms of witches and wizards, you find that there are witches, there are wizards standing behind, and women are ahead. Women are they put women in front, and then they are doing acts in the back. And when you come to find out, you only find these women standing in front, and then you catch them. It is they, the women, who have to testify and say that.
For me, Ike, maybe I ask you this question because you have background knowledge on religion in Mbum land. Yes. You have background knowledge on our tradition and customs.
Yes.
I want to ask you this question. If you look at the Mbum secret societies, they are constituted essentially of men, and women are forbidden to be part of the societies. And you will understand that the societies that are charged with disciplining witchcraft are constituted essentially of men. And in most cases, the victims of witchcraft are women, and more so, poor women. So how do you explain that? Is the gender question taken into consideration, or you are saying that these men who are part of these secret societies are women in disguise that we see in broad daylight?
Okay. What I'm saying is this, that even though you find that the men are in charge of executing the justice system, okay, and that they may be showing bias on the women, the way women do things, the way the women behave, the way things move on, I have noted that women don't think twice, men think twice, and they kill.
You may have noted that, but what I'm trying to find out, maybe
yes.
for what I'm trying to find out, maybe.
Can I intervene here?
Yes, please come in, Prof, because I was just waiting for your intervention.
Time for me. I have to depart very strongly from what you are saying.
Yeah, I think.
And actually say that it is quite disappointing to see a member of clergy speak like this about women these days. This is totally unacceptable. It is not correct. The facts that you state are not correct. Listen to what you say. One, women are emotional. Women don't have, no sorry heart, or how you put it. Men have second thoughts, but women don't. Women think only once. And just the last part here, I mean, it's just unbelievable. It's unconscionable to have Mbum young girls and women sit and listen to this. I do not know what grounds you have to actually make these claims. It is, if we are calling the attention to the fact that women are often the ones that are accused, you must be a witch yourself to claim that it is the men who put women ahead.
No.
No, time for me. We need to say this categorically. You cannot take the Mbum people back into the 19th century.
Prof, if I may ask, from my understanding of what Tamfomi was saying, I think he is going to step in very soon, but I think if I heard him well, he was saying that women are perceived like this within the context of the subject in question.
No. I heard him. He didn't say women are.
Yeah. Could I provide an alternative from my own learning growing up?
Sure.
And that alternative that I provide is that in Mbum society, women are paramount with regards to life. So they are the ones that are principally responsible for bringing life into existence, and they have to be present if life has to be extinguished. I think that's kind of like the general understanding. And I think growing up, what I heard was that the women can undertake witchcraft without the participation of a man, but the men cannot execute witchcraft without the participation of a woman, because the women are responsible for bringing life into existence, and they have to be there for life to be extinguished. I guess that's what I was told. And then,
sure, we still need to push against that. because
well,
a patriarchal culture that came out of a culture that glorified men, and we cannot assume that just because certain men thought that way, that it is that way.
Okay, yeah, well, but I'm saying that that's the view that I was given. That's the view that I was given, which to me is different from the one of the emotionality of the women thinking twice, thinking once.
Yes,
thinking
I get your point.
Yeah, and I'm saying
I'm also pushing against your point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you can do that, but there are other practices that you are not really going to stand against. For example, if a man dies, his mourning is done in 3 days. If a woman dies, his mourning is done in 4 days. That's standard Mbum practice. And there's a reason as to why the women have more days of mourning than the men have. And that again goes back. I'm saying that it still goes back to the fact that they are recognized as being paramount in terms of bringing life into existence. And consequently, some people extrapolate that to say they must be present if life has to be.
That for me, maybe before
even if these things were true,
maybe
can we push back against it and say that the Mbum culture was fundamentally wrong?
Wrong, yeah.
On this subject, can't we push back? We can't actually just take this at face value.
Okay, now
and it's not Mbum culture.
Now,
gender issues among white people are much worse than Africans. So we can't. Yes.
I think please, there is something I want to clear here before maybe time for me Ike comes in.
Yes.
It's with regards to what for me Dimanjong said and your response. It's about culture. Scientifically, I think it is scientifically agreed worldwide that there is no bad culture and there is no good culture. I may be mistaken.
No. What you're saying is that we
just to correct the fact that we can't consider the Mbum culture as bad based on some issues.
That's not what I'm saying. You are misinterpreting me. What I am saying is that just because women have been looked down low on any particular culture, we cannot continue to do that today.
Maybe
so that critique. Let's allow
we cannot assume to the issues that were raised based on what he said.
So now,
Edison.
Mr. Moderator, I would plead that you should interject and cause some disorder to reign. Sorry.
Give me 1 second. I mean 1 minute. Let me correct something that
please intervene and
that Edison keeps going back to.
I understand you. Just give us a minute, please.
Yeah, Edison. I mean, Edison keeps going back to women. I think it just happens that we have been seeing the cases of women. The idea of witchcraft is across the board, and men have been found guilty of witchcraft by my own experience. The well-known cases of witchcraft in my village, the one person I saw exiled in my village was actually a prince, was exiled for witchcraft, was actually a prince. And then I know of an old man that when I left the village, came back, I couldn't recognize him. And then he asked me, "Oh, you still don't recognize me?" I said, "I don't recognize you. It's been a long time." He said, "Oh, do you remember the old man they used to call Pamuntung?" By Pamuntung, it means that, he always had the pot with human meat inside or something. And, that was the accusation that was levied against him. So he was known to be a witch in the village or a wizard in the village. So I'm saying that, I don't know where the notion comes from that women are the ones that are always found guilty of witchcraft. Yeah, men equally are. Men also are.
Okay,
Maybe
thank
not
you.
in the
Yes,
same
thank you
proportion.
so much, Dan, for me, Dimajong. I think that, yeah, let's recalibrate the discussion. We'll give a few minutes to Time for Me EK to continue, pretty much a few minutes so that we can come on to another, to someone else. Yes, go ahead, Time for Me EK.
So, like Time for Me Dimajong is ending up. Men are actually in control of witchcraft in Mbum land. I am saying that the men, just as they control any other facets of the society, they are actually in control of witchcraft. If you see, if you know the number of men who are involved, even many of the practitioners are the people doing the witchcraft. The idea is this, that a woman is usually placed ahead, and then the men move from behind, and then they end up executing something. And tomorrow they come to find out it is the man, it is the woman they get. They are waiting for the woman to name the men who are behind her. Each time they are waiting for the woman to name the men who are behind her, because there is a man behind you, there is a companion. They are waiting for the women to name them. It's not about, oh, it's only women that we see. No, men are actually being involved in witchcraft, even more than women, as I know. But the fact is that even the sympathy we have for women can also contribute to the fact that we are seeing only women, because a woman is weaker. Okay, I'm saying it again. The sympathy we have for the women, that if my wife does something here, the sympathy I have for her will be blown up, because the proportion is bigger than me doing it in the society. We have seen, just of recent, we have seen women taken out, but we have also seen men taken out. And I pointed to some places where you've seen all men practicing it without a woman. So the issue of gender is something, yes, we could put a question mark just because the justice system, the traditional justice system is male dominated. So therefore we can put a question mark on whether, okay, is there a bias on women? But we know exactly that men practice more. Men practice this thing more. So it is a matter of culture. When Professor Bomba is saying, oh, you are degrading the women, well, it's the issue of culture.
So
when this session is over, go and listen to your remarks. And the point is precisely when you say there's a matter of culture, it is precisely what I am challenging, that no culture has a right these days to denigrate or to think lowly or to pass accusations to another gender.
We are not sanctioning that like that.
I see with you.
Right. If I do understand,
nobody's sanctioning women. Okay, nobody's saying our culture should treat women to debase women or treat women inhumanely. Nobody's sanctioning.
Time for me. Look, you and I trade in words. You and I live on words and work on words. May I suggest that just go back and listen to this recording, to the statements you made.
I will do.
Respond. You and I earn money.
Mr. Moderator, can I make
please, you
my
can come in,
statement?
please. Yes, please, Reverend Koyo, you can come in.
And then I have two other practical ways that I have not covered.
No problem. Once Reverend Koyo is over, we'll take one participant and get back to you, please.
I praise God this subject is on the floor, and we have done, and it sounds like conclusive. Witchcraft is a spiritual. Are you getting me?
Yeah, sure. Now we're getting you.
Yeah, I wanted to say, which sounds like my conclusive statement, that witchcraft is a spiritual matter and cannot be handled ultimately by human techniques. If we keep God out of the attempts to suppress witchcraft, I am afraid that we would use all human techniques.
The network is breaking here.
And it will not help us ultimately, because that when men of God are talking, we should need some humility. I think people know that God uses other. Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please. The network.
Yes, I wanted to say that in response to the statement Professor Bomba made, that men of God, he suggests that they would speak with some humility when they're talking about sacred texts. Yes, I think, as far as I know, when we are citing sacred texts, we are doing so with humility. But we also do so with authority, because we know it did not come from the mind of man, overcome the menace of witchcraft, which is against the works of speak from God with authority, not as though we are the one, but as though God has the power to suppress all contrary spirits that are working against him. So I am saying that in addition to other recommendations that I made and other speakers made, let us not belittle the rule of God in overcoming the menace of witchcraft in the Mbum land. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks very much. Just before we get to Uncle Johnson, I had seen a hand up, Suzuki. Is she still on board? Right, so I saw the hand up and then the hand went down again.
Yeah.
Let's not say we are not gender biased, please.
Please don't be.
She's right there. She's
Thank you
stably
so much.
there.
Okay. So my proposal tonight, from everything I have heard, is that
there is an apparent, there's something else around her that makes noise. I'm not sure what is that. Yeah, there's some noise at the background. Maybe you have two gadgets.
Is it okay?
No? All right.
Hello?
That makes sense now. Yes, it's okay.
Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, hi, we can hear you.
Getting you.
515.
I'm not sure what.
It's okay. You can go ahead now.
So, okay, so my proposal is that we should be able to use, so my proposal is that we should be able to use all the identified ideas. We've understood that we can use our pastors, we can use the chiefs. So if after this meeting, the pastors, the religious bodies can approach the chiefs and then start the discussion from there. And then we would definitely have taken a step into resolving the matter. The other thing is that from our last meeting to today, we've seen at least 3 videos. Those are the 3 that are out. What if another video comes up? Can the pastors now step in to say, okay, before you exile somebody, can you call us in so that they can provide a safe haven to those people for where to go? The next point is that, can all the Wikuda chapters in the world write letters to the funds to decry this brutalization on humans, and then referring them to what used to happen before, now that we all know that there is a procedure or steps to be taken? Thank you.
Good. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, so yes, Uncle Johnson's hand is up. Go ahead, please. You're muted.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to be very brief. I thought I would not have to intervene again, but things have gone on in a way that I couldn't hold back, because all what I'm trying to say is, when we come to a panel like this or on a forum like this, and we invite all the people that we have invited to look for solution to a problem, we have to be very cautious and be neutral in our views. or else we will be part of the problem and people are going to resist. So if we really want to solve a problem, we have really to try not to generalize, assume, make all kinds of justifications, and then reinforce our own views. We are looking for a solution. We are looking for a solution. Maybe the problem doesn't exist, but the belief is there, and we see the effects on our people. Maybe they're innocent, but we want to try to resolve that. So let us be circumspect and then be neutral and try to not to protect our professions or I don't know what, and try to be neutral so that we can be able to have access to the victims and to the people whom we are trying to help. That's just all what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Uncle Johnson. Yes, do you have any remarks at this point, Edison, before we go ahead?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that from what the lady said, she is solution driven. She's solution driven, and you would, if we look at our participation here, she may be the only female who has taken the courage to take part in this sort of discussion, which means what we are saying here and what we live are maybe two realities. Please, thank you for meeting. Yeah, thank you.
That's right.
What we are saying here and what we live back home may be different realities. That notwithstanding, there are three principal approaches that our voices, the voices in our communities, are projecting as solutions. Traditionally, witchcraft was addressed or handled just by our traditional institutions, that is the Ngwarong. Today, the Cameroon justice systems for, the regulation of witchcraft issues. And we have the church coming in and addressing the same issue. So I think maybe what we should look at is how to harmonize or how to accept or to integrate all these three way forwards to make sure that they are not conflicting within our Mbum society. We have cases of the church not accepting the intervention of the Ngwarong because the church thinks that the Ngwarong is operating with a spirit that is against the spirit of God. We have cases of the civil, that means government, the law, thinking that traditional authorities are taking things into their hands. So we are at this point in time, and I don't want to go back to whether it exists or not, but we have issues of human rights, gender issues, and violence cropping up. We are living a social media era. So how do we address these issues at this point so that we will not stigmatize the world with images that are coming from back home that do stigmatize us, especially when it comes to the treatment of women, people like women?
All right, thanks so much, Edison. We are still on the way forward. I think I did see the intentions. What do you think about the way forward just before we go back to the panelists? We have Njaba Edwin, if you're still on board.
Chair, I need to beg and leave.
Right, go ahead, please.
Yes, but before I leave, let me just comment on my the last comment from my brother.
Okay.
We were brought here. I was brought here particularly, not because I'm a town for me or anything. I've never held a title in Mbum land. I was brought here as a scholar. I speak as a scholar. If I fail to speak as a scholar, then I am not serving you. Now, just because I speak as a scholar doesn't mean that you have to accept everything. I would be a fool, an illusion. I would be living an illusion if I assume that my ideas will not be held under scrutiny. So we cannot come to a forum like this and pretend that somebody with an educational background cannot speak from that educational background. I think it's just, it's a remark that is regrettable. Yes, I speak from that background because of my training, because of the extensive time I have put in studying about witchcraft. And it doesn't mean that you have to believe it or you have to agree with what I say. I mean, I just find that really, it's just beyond the pale. That's the reason you asked me to be on this panel. You didn't ask me to be on this panel because I hold any cultural title.
No, not at all.
Oh,
Right.
oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely understood, Prof. Yep.
It's understood. Okay.
Yeah, before you come in, please, with your indulgence, time for me, we want to know if Njaba Edwin is there. What do you propose as a way forward?
Okay, 1 minute. Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, but we cannot see you. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know if my internet has been inconsistent, but I think I agree with the proposals that has been laid forward because we want the development of the Mbum land. We cannot continue for over how many years and behave as if we don't see that we are held back. Why is it that people prefer to live in Douala, Yaoundé, and even overseas than live in our own villages and bring those developments that it's not unheard of that in the Mbum land or in the village we can also build a very good soccer field where people leave other places and come and play in our area, as well as build good hotels. But what we are saying is that apart from other factors that are impeding development, what we are discussing is very critical in also promoting that development. And so all the suggestions that have been made, people have done research, people have, we've heard from people's experiences, and which all contribute to the well-being to foster this development. So I just hope that, we can move the needle. And that would mean that we need the greater community of the Mbum people to be able to move this forward. In any way that we can participate, why not? It would be a great honor that someday we to start seeing transformation in our land, that we no longer see pictures coming where every place is full of dust that impacts people's health, but that we can see development, we can see third places, we can see structures that are built by either Mbum people or other people wanting to invest back in those places to bring transformation that's necessary for those who don't have opportunities that you and I may have to be where we are today, but that we can develop it and make it a place where people will desire to live happily and grow like every other place is growing. That's my suggestion. But again, like I said, I would happily join any group of people who are fostering that development in the Mbum land. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Njeba. So basically, I can see that on this forum still there are a couple of notables, in quotes, notables who belong to the Chiefs and Elites Forum. I think this is a channel where we can definitely exploit to make these points understood and like to channel the points to those who matter and those who are decision makers. So time for me, Ike, back to you, please. Good. We are still on how we can solve the issue.
How we can move forward.
That's right.
That is the major thing that we are looking at.
Right.
Now, we now have, I said we have institutions, we have the funds union. These things are happening. It's a disgrace on us and our society. It is not supposed to be a disgrace because we have the traditional institutions that are supposed to act in a particular way, but they have not acted in that particular way, and the situation is degenerating with time. So what we are trying to do now is that we will be engaging the traditional institutions and trying to remind them of the necessary protocols and the right protocols to establish justice with the witchcraft issue. And so that is going to be a robust way of moving with this thing. Just yesterday, I was talking to a group of Mwarong Shays. They were in Tabiken. They will be moving to Binshwa in some few days to come. And I addressed it with them yesterday. And it took me about 2 hours to speak to them concerning what happened, concerning what we observed. Since it started, I have talked to about 10 chiefs concerning that issue. And so we will be moving ahead to create an awareness, and we are going to, again, make sure that it doesn't continue to happen that way. Since we have a traditional system that we can perfect and that we can work with, and these things can be handled in a better way. We will also want to, like with the education, we will also want to go through the Shares Union who are engaged with that in order to give education about the actual protocols to use in order to deal with this witchcraft issue. But just probably under education, there is one thing that we need to establish, that there is truth and honesty. Truth and honesty is dashing away from our society. If we come back to speaking truth, I'm not talking about being Christian. I'm not talking about being a Muslim. I'm talking about being honest. That is a virtue that is going away. Dr. Richard talked about communioning. Communioning is one of the highest spiritual ritual that is done across religions. If communioning is done, it actually conveys a powerful spiritual inclination to solving problems. The persons you have been communioning with will hardly do anything so bad against you. Then the other one is we need to work on really coming back to the nuclear family system, or the value of the nuclear family. Let me tell you that the nuclear family is disintegrating, and that is why many of these vices are coming in. Okay, that is why witchcraft is increasing, just because people are going about and forgetting their own family. The nuclear family is disintegrating, it's finishing, and that is why this many problems, not only this witchcraft, we have many problems because of that. Therefore, we can, under education, we can be able to bring back our people to their consciences concerning these virtues. And that is very important. It's going to make a change, a serious change. Right now, we are working with traditional institutions. Yes, we can develop the list of interventions that we have earmarked here. And when we develop that list, we'll be able to, we could have Canada could write out this list in terms of a communique or a memorandum, and we will be able to distribute this memorandum, and we will do the follow-up of this memorandum to make sure that we effect change, practical change. So at least we have come down to some practical things we can do to reduce the issue of witchcraft.
Thank you so much, Tamfomi Ike. We continue to applaud your presence. Is Reverend Koyo still with us? I know it's getting late, especially in Du as well. I'm not sure if Reverend Koyo is still. Oh yeah. So Reverend Koyo, over to you. What else do you think we can do to get out of this? Not getting out of the situation. Again, we have learned that it's a lifestyle kind of. So, but how can we remedy the situation?
I don't know.
there's some noise in the background. So. All right. While, yeah, I think there's some. Okay. Sorry about that. All right, so apparently it's not possible to have Reverend Koyo at this time. Again, I'll call on Nkungala Johnson if he has any further suggestions, because I do understand he has been able to summarize the proposed, solution or whatever we've been discussing here. What about your own practical solution to move ahead? You should have, maybe you have another.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. There is some noise at the background. I'm not sure why.
From my side?
Yes.
No, there's nothing.
Yeah, there's that. It looks like you have two devices. I don't know.
Oh, okay, maybe my phone is. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on, sorry. Is it gone? Is it gone?
It's still there. If you mute the second device, I think it will work.
Okay, I'll do that. Muted?
Or maybe you could log out from the phone.
Okay, I'll go. Yeah, I will. Hold on.
Let's say while he fixes the problem, we can listen to this pertinent question that was asked by our brother Napoleon. Tata Napoleon is right away from Bamenda. I have seen the program started, and he asked a pertinent question in one of the forums. Mr. Napoleon thinks that those who are accused of witchcraft are accused because they are from poor families. Mr. Napoleon, you have been listening to everybody. You have been, this is your second time attending this program, but you have never spoken. Mr. Napoleon? Okay.
Okay.
The noise is over, but Mr. Napoleon is not there. So
let me.
Uncle Gala, maybe Uncle Gala should go on.
Okay, are you ready for me now?
Go ahead.
Yes,
okay.
go ahead.
We can hear regardless of the noise. Go ahead.
Oh, there's noise, there's still noise in the background?
There is noise, but we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the other thing I have to say is that everything that I heard was around my 5 points, and if the only thing I want to add is how, then if we can use the how, we're going to incorporate all what we discuss here, all those possible solutions through simple brainstorming and cost-benefit analysis, and try to write a memo to Mbum people through Wikuda and the funds. We can do that from Wikuda, Canada, and I will very much propose myself to be part of that. Thank you. Hello, I'm done.
Mr. Moderator, can I chip in a suggestion in regards to how we can harness all the suggestions or the recommendations?
Reverend, you have the floor.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Do I have the floor?
Yeah.
Can I go on?
Yes, go on, please.
Yes, I just wanted to say that from every indication, we have so far received a lot of recommendations in regards to the way forward. And from my perspective, I can see that those recommendations, if they are all harnessed, it will give us it can help us to come up with something that sounds like a plan of action that can be inclusive. And so as we will be seeking to implement it on the ground, we can put in all the parties that are supposed to work together for a common good in redressing this problem. I think if we approach it that way, because so far it seems to me like the things that are coming up are just repetitions. So the nations together on something, a document that can seem like an action plan. It will help us on the way forward. Thank you.
Yeah, my hand was up.
Yes, time for me, Dimanjon is there.
Yeah, I just wanted to observe something because it looks like people are kind of stressing it. The truth about us is that our backwardness doesn't have anything that much to do with the issue of witchcraft. Okay. In Bamenda, where we are, people are dealing with witchcraft there. In Douala, where we are, people are dealing with witchcraft. So if we choose not to develop our area and we are using witchcraft as the excuse, we are just using the easy, we are using the easy excuse. We are contemptuous of who we are. We despise where we come from, and so we would rather not deal with it. It has nothing. I mean, it's not, well, for some people it might, but I'm not too sure that that's the reason for our backwardness. Maybe our backwardness is the reason for our backwardness. It's not really witchcraft. In this sense, if now they accuse me of witchcraft in Tala, my easy solution is to move to my mother's village, which is next door. I just cross the river and I'm in my mother's village. That will still be in Mbum land, and I can live and develop my mother's village. We will still be in Mbum. Or I can leave from my mother's village, go to Ndu and develop and come back to my mother's village, just like I would have left Tala and gone to Ndu and develop when I'm building a hotel or building whatever, then come back to Tala as my village of origin. I can do it from my mother's village if I am sent there because of my witchcraft. So let us not belabor our backwardness in terms of development on this witchcraft issue. Because the people that are in Douala, they never go home, but the occasional time when they go home, maybe for a birthday or whatever, they don't die there because witchcraft is waiting for them. And then the thing is, when some of them die in Douala, somebody pays in the village with witchcraft. So what are we been escaping from? You escape to Douala, the witchcraft is a mystical thing. It's going to get to you there. You go to America, people die in America. When they get home, some people become guilty of their death in America. So let's not actually tie this witchcraft thing to our underdevelopment, because the problem or the reasons for our underdevelopment are with us, and people need to examine that much more. And if we use witchcraft to provide as the excuse to those people, they will continue to use it, because no matter what we do, this thing is not going to be over in the next 1 week, or in the next 1 year, or in the next 10 years, 100 years. It will continue to be there. So I just thought that we should at least try to not overemphasize that witchcraft is the reason for our backwardness, and they would do away with it with some heritage means, then we'll become a very developed people, because those people who don't want to associate with whom may just be using witchcraft as a pretext. I'm not sure that is their real reason.
Yeah, I think and for me, you are hitting the nail on the head. Now the issue is that we are saying we should develop, and that is going to reduce witchcraft. We are not saying that we should we can we are not saying that when we are not saying that witchcraft will completely go away if we develop. We are saying that it will reduce if we really do development, because we tied it to jealousy. Okay, we have tied witchcraft to jealousy. We have tied witchcraft to greed, and so it is a bad behavior. It is a spiritually bad behavior. So we need to deal with it also from the end of development. We are not saying that it is the ultimate. We are just saying that if we contribute to it, you know, to development, it will be able to reduce that issue of jealousy, issue of greed, and so on.
That for me, Ike, maybe to throw more light on that particular point, because I understood when people are saying, and people have been saying it over and over, that Mbum people are not developing because of witchcraft. And when they say so, they are comparing Mbum land to Douala, to Yaoundé, or to other urban areas. Mm-hmm. We should understand that when we talk about development of Mbum people, there are certain parameters that we should be able to use to establish what we understand by the development of the Mbum people, mm-hmm. or the Mbum land in itself, or the Mbum villages, or the Mbum families, or the Mbum mentality or the mindset. So when we are saying Mbum people are not developing, I wouldn't want us to accept that we are not developing, similarly to what some other people, some person said some day ago, that there is no love in Mbum land. Those are generalities that when we entertain, it means we accept them. Mm-hmm. For instance, there are national capitals, there are regional capitals, there are divisional and sub-divisional capitals. And in terms of road infrastructure, electricity network, mobile telephone network, this and that, those things flow with a national agenda or action plan. And if we are looking at Mbum from that perspective, we may be missing the point. If we are looking at Mbum development in terms of how many Mbum people go to school, how do they get employed, how many of them have, you know, decent jobs, how many health facilities can we lobby back and things and that, we should be able to say that witchcraft has stopped us maybe from bringing electricity to one village or making a school to function well in another village. But if we generalize that Mbum is not developing because of witchcraft, we may be making a mistake. So from what Tafomin Dimanjong was saying, I think I understood him as people are saying that witchcraft in Mbum land is responsible for underdevelopment, as if Mbum was a particular entity that is suffering from witchcraft, not knowing that the phenomenon of witchcraft is present in Mbum land, is present in Donga Mato, is present in Northwest, present in Cameroon, and all over the world. It depends on how we perceive it and how we function with it. I'm happy with the way you started by saying it is a necessary evil that we have to live with. Mm-hmm. While some people think that we should do away with it so that we will develop, others think that no, you have not understood what we are calling witchcraft and so on. So until we define the terms or the concepts, what is witchcraft, what is magic, what is development, what do we understand by development in Mbum and all of this, we may be turning around the same point over and over and not saying something. Thank you, Tam, for me. You had the floor.
Okay, so we are this witchcraft, like you said, it is not going away. Okay, we have to live with it. So we will. It's not only here that we will do this education. This education has to go. Each and every one of us has to take this and propagate the discussions that we are having here. There is fear everywhere concerning this issue of witchcraft. The issue is that pastors are treating it. I mean, the Christians, the Muslims, everybody is treating it. The traditionalists are treating it. So all of us have to put our hands in this thing and make sure that Mbum people live with this thing healthily, so that it doesn't constitute another aspect to draw us back from from education, draw us back from development, and so on, as we are perceiving.
Yeah, thanks so much. I have someone who has been on the forum for a very long time, Ngenge Shingon, and I think we have spoken a couple of times. What is your take on this, Mr. Ngenge?
Yes, are you getting me?
Yeah, sure, but we don't have the privilege to see you. If you can go on camera, we'll be so happy.
Okay, let me put on the camera.
Wonderful. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much for letting me in. I've been listening very keenly in the background.
From onset, I saw you. Yeah.
Yes, yes. A lot of things have actually been said. Actually, like I don't really have much to actually comment because witchcraft is for me it's a spiritual thing, and I know when we want to handle spiritual things at times it's very difficult. For me, I actually think we should instead empower the traditional institutions that we have that can actually handle it and empower them to treat this matter. For me, I don't really see that our culture, what we have is not really that bad because we do not kill anybody for practicing witchcraft. We like said, they can only send you away to go and meet your parents, or you go back to your Ndurma as a head over there. I think that we can instead work with the system that we have, because it's traditional, is something that we cannot just judge physically, except the person maybe accepts that he is doing it or she is doing it. So, and concerning the fact that we're talking about women, all my life, as I've been growing up, when there is a case of witchcraft, I always hear names of women, and the majority are women. I don't know. I cannot give any serious reason for that, but I think most of the times when it concerns witchcraft, we hear of women. They were bringing up some reasons why they should be women. Yeah, but I don't know. So maybe when I was in school too, they also said that when you see a witch, the first thing that is a woman, and the second thing is that it's a woman. Somebody taught us that in philosophy.
Okay, thank you so much, Zangenge. We have Uncle Johnson who wants to come in again. It's a pleasure having you all the time.
Yes, thank you. I want to come in because of Mr. Manjon's intervention and what we said last time about witchcraft and development. I don't remember people saying it's because. I remember last time we were saying, how do we use witchcraft to enhance development? It's not that it's the cause of underdevelopment in our area. So last time we said, I think I'm the one who asked the question, how can we use the witchcraft that exists, as you are saying, we have to live with it. How do we use it positively? That's all what we were saying. I don't know if it's the reason for underdevelopment. I don't know that.
Yeah, all right, thanks for that.
That's a better way.
Yeah, we also have...
we said last time, that's what we said last time. I don't know how it came up. That is the cause of underdevelopment. I don't know.
No, that was maybe just that's
the belief, you know.
Right. So, do we have Ngwan Kenneth? Ngwan Kenneth, you'll be welcome if you have any contribution to make on this platform. Ngwan Kenneth, are you on?
Yeah, I'm on. I've got no contribution to make. I've thoroughly enjoyed the session and it's quite interesting and innovative to me.
Thank you so much. So while we are wrapping up, I'm not sure, is there any thing else, Edison, you think you can, it's important for us to wrap up this other session. But before we get there, some of the resolutions we have taken, it's coming up with a memo. Don't worry, yeah, coming up with a memo so we can have all these laudable ideas in this memo and send to Acquis de Droit. Yeah, again, I'm happy to know that Uncle Ngala Johnson is opted to be part of this committee. And of course, we will also look at whoever is a volunteer. We will be grateful to have, get connected one or the other through the forum, maybe, to have volunteers who have been present on this platform from inception, so we can come up with a very solid memo. And this can be a working document that will be helpful to the Mbum people, both home, especially home and abroad. So yes, we are coming to the end of this program, or this this talk. I do again appreciate each and everyone who has made it a point of duty. I appreciate the panelists. They've done a great job. Again, time for me, EK, Reverend Koyo, Professor Bomba. It's been wonderful having the three of you as panelists with divergent ideas, convergent ideas. This has been a great job on your part. The level of the moderators as well. We do appreciate Ngalaya J, Tawe Nelson, who are unavoidably absent, and then especially Edison as well, who's the anchor man. Actually, that is the brain behind the moderators. We do appreciate all participants from wherever they logged in, and we say again, we will be closing this session and looking forward to a subsequent section on probably a different topic. So once more, we say thank you for being part of us, and God bless you all.
Thank you, thank you. Maybe before we wrap up, there were chats that were sent, and those who send their chats should not think that their chats have not been taken into consideration. We did follow up their chats, and most of the chats were looked into, and people asked questions that answered most of the chats. And those chats that were not responded to, we are still available, and we will want to respond to them appropriately.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, just yes. If there is any question that came on the chat that we didn't answer, please push it forward. We will be able to answer. I am ready to answer. Now, in subsequent weeks ahead, I'll be able to take back all the questions on Facebook. I'm going to take back all the questions, and I will answer them from number 1 down to number 60, so that it is actually,
yeah. All right. So officially, the session is closed. We want to respect our time, and now we can just talk and talk and talk. Yeah. And, you know, see the faces now. You know, just interact before in the next couple of minutes before finally.
Let me